It's one step forward and another step back at wide receiver.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. And coming out of the bye week, we got some not so great news on one wide receiver, Nic Anderson. Matt Zenitz of 247 Sports, CBS Sports, reporting that it's probable that Nic Anderson is going to miss several more weeks due to the injuries that he's been dealing with since fall camp. Did appear in week 4 briefly, and then quickly exited the game and was out the rest of the way. So, Jay, at this point, are you expecting anything out of Nic Anderson?
Not at all. And it sucks to say that, but it seems like he probably aggravated it in the Tennessee game. So it could have been something a little bit more serious. And as teams are seeing this past week, once you start losing your top wide receivers, it makes things a little bit harder to be as productive as you want, right? So for this team, especially with Michael Hawkins at the helm, Brent Venables and Emmett Jones and Seth Luttrell, all of them, probably need to really focus on developing the younger guys. Look, we got a little bit out of J.J. Hester last game, and we saw some shining moments out of Jaquez Petaway and Brendan Thompson. It's time to start focusing on those guys because, unfortunately, with Nic Anderson down, Jalil Farouk down, Deion Burks is still up in the air. We'll hear about him this week from Brent Venables, and then losing Jaden Gibson. It's not good. Right. It's not good right now, and we just gonna have to focus on the young guys, I guess.
Yeah, there's tested wide receiver depth, or testing your depth chart, and there's what Oklahoma's been having to deal with, which takes it to a whole nother level this season. But yeah, it's a bummer for Nic Anderson. This was a guy that came in with a high expectations to build off of his 2023 season, where he had over almost 800 800 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns, and just it hasn't come together for him on the injury front. And that's kind of harkening back to his true freshman season in 2022, where he wasn't really able to see the field in large part due to injuries too. So you hate it for the guy. He's a hard worker, one of the good dudes on the team. He's a leader. It's just unfortunate and unlucky for him. And at this point, until he shows up and he shows out on a football field, I'm going to have very low expectations for what he's going to be able to give you this year. And who knows what the future holds for him and the rest of this wide receiver group going into 2025, because there's a ton of dudes that could come back given all the injuries that they've dealt with this year and could redshirt. If there is some good news, you do have Deion Burks that is potentially coming back. Brent Venables sounded optimistic last week during the bye week about his potential availability. So that's at least encouraging, Jay.
Yeah, you got some optimism with him and Taylor Tatum. Sounds like they're both on the better side of being injured right now. It appears that they're possibly going to be able to make a return soon. So I would really like to have Tatum back, right? That just adds another dynamic, especially if you can run like a 2-back set with Tatum as well as like Barnes or Tatum and Sawchuk. Gives you a different dynamic, especially going up against Texas, right? I think the entire goal in this is that Texas doesn't know what's coming for them. They've got a little tape on Michael Hawkins, but not a lot. And if this bye week was as what we would have expected, opening up the playbook more, the expectation is that there's going to be a lot of new stuff that's going to be seen in this game. And there's going to be a lot more attacking deep on this Texas secondary.
Yeah, the Oklahoma Sooners have a lot that they can improve upon going into the Red River Showdown. We're going to actually get into some of that coming up in the next segment. Let's talk about the polls that came out, because the Oklahoma Sooners did actually get a little bit of a bump in the AP and the USA Today coaches poll. They moved up to number 16 in the US LBM coaches poll, USA Today Sports, and they moved up to a tie for 18 in the AP top 25. What's your thoughts on where Oklahoma stands now coming out of the bye week?
Kind of expected it, but it was kind of a little bit of shocking in the way some of these teams moved around. Like Texas A&M blew out Missouri. It was up 34-0 at one point in that game, so that was obviously a blowout, especially late. And they moved up 10 spots from 25 to 15. I thought that was intriguing. Bama only dropped 6 spots, but Missouri dropped 12. And it's probably because of the size of the L that they took is why they probably went
They
ahead and
hadn't played
moved
anybody
them.
this year.
Well, yeah, that too. But there was a lot of shifting around. Michigan is right outside the top 20, 24 and 21 respectfully. USC falls completely out of the polls. It was, yeah, right. And it was interesting. Like LSU kind of didn't move in the AP, but moved up a little bit in the coaches, even though they didn't play. There was a lot of big movements. Tennessee dropped right underneath Alabama. I guess because their games were closer, it made sense for them to not fall too far. But man, that Missouri drop, whoosh, yikes. We'll see what it looks like for the rest of the season, though.
Yeah, Missouri got punished big time. I don't have a problem with Alabama and Tennessee staying inside the top 10 in the coaches poll because, listen, Tennessee has, I think, solid wins over NC State and Oklahoma. Obviously, Alabama just beat Georgia a week ago. You can't completely take that away from them, even though that Vanderbilt loss was, oh my gosh, yikes. For Oklahoma, man, I'm fine with where they're at. I think they still got a lot to prove as a team this season before anybody can take them seriously. You know, the loss to Tennessee, the quarterback change, kind of struggling with Auburn for 3 quarters before he finally turned it on in the 4th. A lot of that, it goes back to just the inconsistencies that you have on offense. But if they can continue to improve and they can show that, hey, this is a better offense now with Michael Hawkins. We're getting Deion Burks back. That provides us a little bit more weaponry on the outside. Our running game's getting better because our offensive line is healthier. Then, hey, maybe they start to trend in the right direction. Obviously, this week against Texas is going to be a huge, huge matchup against the number 1 team in the nation. Say what you want to say about the Texas Longhorns. We'll have a lot to say this week, but they're the number 1 team in the nation. And that's going to create a huge amount of buzz for them. Can they live up to that number 1 billing in the Red River Showdown?
Yeah, and it's been a bit since, the last time was 2022 that Texas was a favorite in that one, and we all know how that went. But in that game, you didn't actually have a quarterback. So that kind of makes things a little bit different. But even before that, right, there wasn't a lot of, there hasn't been a lot of games where Texas has been favored in this one, right? Before 2022, you had 09. Then you had 06, 05, back in Texas when they were in their peaks or whatnot. And I think 05 was back when Texas had their largest spread of 14. And they ended up winning that game. So, for Oklahoma, the big thing is breaking that, right? I think that's the only time since 99 that Texas has been a double-digit favorite in this game. And right now, Oklahoma has a chance to really, be the one that kind of ruins what Texas is trying to do, especially the way last week went. Hopefully Texas is not trying to overlook this team. The defense is a heck of a lot better than it was back in 05. It's not dealing with a lot of injuries on the defensive side, knock on wood. We're mainly all offense-centric, but the good thing is we still got a lot of young players that if these young players show out on offense or do just enough, the defense can carry them the rest of the way.
Yeah, and it is an offense that I think has an opportunity to improve. That I don't think we've seen the best version of this Oklahoma Sooners football program for 2024 just yet. How can they improve? What can they show us the rest of the way? Or have they peaked yet? We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my favorite features is the seat views from inside the app. You can see exactly what your line of sight is going to be looking at, and you get a great idea what the stadium's going to feel like inside the app before you ever buy it. You also have the all-in pricing. You can turn on this feature inside the app and you can see what the total price is going to be before you even get to checkout. So there's no surprise fees or taxes at the end. So go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. The Oklahoma Sooners, I feel like, are still being viewed under the radar. This is a team that, listen, they haven't been great this year. The offense has been a roller coaster ride. The quarterback change has created a lot of uncertainty. But I think what we saw out of the Auburn game is a team that still has some growing to do. But I think we're seeing a team that hasn't reached its peak yet. I know that that's crazy to think, but this team has a chance to get much, much better as the season goes along. How quickly? We'll see.
Yeah. This team has not hit its peak. There's still a lot of growth there. And we talked about this, last week. The best part that we're seeing about this team now is that we're seeing week over week movement forward. And that's kind of the thing that's most important. The defense has been carrying the majority of the load, but I think the offense is going to start taking some of that load away, right? We saw a little bit that in the Auburn game when we did the big drive to get us back close. And then the defense closed the game out for us. And then, of course, the offense did what it needs to do to run as much clock as possible and let the defense finalize things. And so as long as the offense can find a way to just keep moving the ball forward, if you want me to be honest, man, this team can be very dangerous. And you're right. Everyone's seeing Oklahoma as a under the radar type team, or a team that, they're not really looking at them specifically because this team has flip-flopped from what historically Oklahoma's been over the last 20 years, which was mainly an offensive-centric team, right, one of the highest-scoring teams in college football in a lot of different moments, to a team that's defense is literally taking over everything, and the offense is still trying to grow. So it's just we're not accustomed to seeing this type of Oklahoma team. I think once Michael Hawkins really gets ingrained and they start really opening up the playbook and he gets to really do his thing, this team's going to be a lot better. And don't even think about next season. Like next season, this team's going to be ridiculous. It's probably going to be the most dangerous team in college football next year. But this year, this team is going to be that sneaky good team that could push itself up a lot higher than people think. Right? It could go past the win total, no problem, based upon the way all those games happened this past weekend.
Yeah, I'm seeing Oklahoma show up on a lot of the quote-unquote pretenders list at this point, and I think they've got a lot to prove still, and I think that's a place that they don't mind being. They want to continue to get better. They want to continue to improve, and a lot of it is going to fall on the shoulders of Michael Hawkins and the offense, but I don't think that's going to bother him one bit. I think this is a guy that is ready to kind of carry the load of the program, be the face of the program. He just doesn't look like somebody who rattles under the pressure, at least through his first 6+ quarters of action. I mean, he's held up. It's just a matter of now taking the game management and going from game manager to playmaker. Because listen, I don't want to sound negative, the game manager aspect, but you can tell that he's trying not to turn the ball over. Yes. Much like Jackson Arnold, much like even Nico Yamaleava, these young quarterbacks have been so focused on protecting the football that at times not letting it loose, maybe when the play is there to be made. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say he's missing wide open guys. I'm not saying that, but there are times probably that he's seeing it and just uncertain about throwing it. And I think as he gets more comfortable in the offense, he's going to throw it and he's going to feel more comfortable throwing it. And I think that's going to help open things up a little bit more, especially with the offensive line coming back together, getting healthier, having some cohesion, some chemistry and continuity up there. That's going to matter a lot. And then getting a guy like Deion Burks back is going to open things up a lot more as well. But I think you'll start to see Michael Hawkins play a little bit more confident, play with a little bit more moxie. The more game time he gets, the more playing time he gets, you're going to see him taking some shots. You're going to see more of the JJ Hester deep ball where, listen, JJ Hester, I mean, yeah, he had the guy beat down the field, but it wasn't like it was beat by 10 yards. The guy was right on JJ Hester's hip and Michael Hawkins threw the ball. So that's kind of what I think needs to happen for Oklahoma to take the next step on offense. On defense, is there a way that Oklahoma can continue to improve, or have they kind of reached their ceiling so far?
I think the improvement's going to be on the secondary, right? We've seen the linebackers do just about everything you could imagine. They're not only blitzing, they're in coverage, they're getting interceptions and returning them for touchdowns. I mean, what more could you ask for them, right? They're causing fumbles. Same thing with the defensive line. They're getting sacks, they're causing pressure, they're making things really hard for quarterbacks who need a little bit of extra time and actually have good offensive lines. They're being super disruptive. So overall, I think those units are doing the best. The secondary is going to have to cut back on a lot of the big plays. And now, granted, when you have a very aggressive defense, you're more susceptible to the deep pass, right? You're going to give up some bigger plays because you're going to start putting dudes on the island. And if you don't get to the quarterback fast enough, it just makes them have to just chase a dude around in circles and not knowing where they're going, right? Once the route concept is done and they're freestyling, it's almost hard to be able to pattern match a wide receiver just in open space. So for us, it's not only getting to the quarterback faster, I think the secondary is going to have to be able to play. We're going to play at a little bit faster speed, or we're going to put faster guys out there in preparation for some of those deep routes. On top of that, I kind of want the secondary to get a little bit more aggressive on trying to pick off passes. We kind of have an idea of what passes are coming, especially those short ones. When you know they're going to do a quick little wheel route in this little area, second safety, be up top just in case. Corner, run up and try to pick that pass. We're going to need to create a lot more turnovers just to help the offense. And to be honest, that's going to be the best way to get the defense the opportunity to get breaks is by us getting those type of turnovers. So I think the secondary is where we're going to need to see the biggest improvement. Not saying they're playing bad, but saying they probably have the best opportunity, because if we can get teams to, throw in less than 200 yards a game on a regular basis, hey man, that would be a huge improvement to what we've done over the last few years here at Oklahoma.
Well, I also think just even making teams drive the length of the field and not allowing big plays, it feeds into what Oklahoma is really, really good at. And I mean, they're good at stopping the run. They're good at rushing the passer. They're good at creating turnovers. The more plays that an offense is on the field, it's more plays for the defense to be on the field, but it creates the opportunity for the offense to make a mistake, whether it's a false start, a holding penalty, an incompletion, a deflected pass, an interception, whatever it is. There's more opportunities for an offense to make a mistake when they're on the field for a lot longer than, hey, 50-yard bomb, touchdown, And I think you're right. I think the cornerback group, if they can continue to get better and they can continue to improve, which I think they will, we'll see what Gentry Williams' availability is going to be like coming out of the bye. I'm not having any great expectations for his availability. So if it's Des Malone and Kenai Walker on the outside, then these guys know to be ready for a full complement of snaps. And you're going to start seeing more Eli Bowen on the outside as well. And so I do think
Makari Vickers.
Makari Vickers. I do think the cornerback group can get better. I think that they have played fairly well. Mm-hmm. It's some of the technical aspects, getting your head around so that you can play the ball when it's in the air, as opposed to just strictly playing the wide receiver. It's converting Kenai Walker on some of those opportunities to pick off a pass when the ball goes through your hands or hits off your hands. The corners are playing aggressive football. I think you made a great point in that you've got to get to the quarterback quicker, or you at least have to get him off his spot. If you're not going to get there, you got to get him off of his spot where he doesn't have the ability to put his arm and his legs and his whole body into a throw down the field. He's got to move and then try to make that throw. It makes it a lot more challenging for the quarterback. So even if you're not going to be able to get there, at least creating the pressure to get him uncomfortable so he's not able to use all of his mechanics in his toolbox to make the throw. And I think that's going to make a big difference.
Fair point. That's true. And the other good thing too for the secondary is that when we start to play some of the younger players, all that's going to do is grow them more for next season, right? I know Kenai can come back. Dez, I think he's about done with eligibility. So you'll probably see, like I said, more Eli Bowen. You'll see some Makari Vickers. I don't know what side of the ball Jacoby's going to play. I mean, they're going to have him play Travis Hunter and do both sides. I don't know.
I'm for it.
Hey, sign me up. I want to see his athleticism. Let's watch him go out there and do some things, right?
Just go play ball.
Just go play ball. But also on top of that, the secondary, right? The safety room, as much as that has, how as elite as that room has been, right? I'm ready to see the young guys like Reggie Powers as well as Boganowski and Jaden Hardy really ball out, man, we've got a very bright future with it. If anything, I need to see a little bit more aggressiveness, though.
Yeah. And hopefully coming out of the bye, everybody is a little bit more locked in on where they're supposed to be, because some of the coverage mishaps were at times due to not being in the right spot, not being able to get over and into position, or a miscommunication that created a big play. So coming out of the bye, everybody has a clear understanding of what their responsibilities are in the defense moving forward. And you're going to need it this week against Texas with their trio of wide receivers. It's pretty good. And probably Quinn Ewers back as well. That's going to create some big challenges for the Oklahoma Sooners secondary on the outside. What a weekend in the SEC. What does it mean for the Oklahoma Sooners? We'll discuss.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help you find the right professionals for your team fast and for free. So like if you're looking for some new salespeople, or you're trying to find some more engineers, LinkedIn can get you taken care of. And the best part, LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. So check them out. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On SEC podcast with our guy Chris Gordy, breaking down everything that went haywire this past weekend in college football, in particular with the SEC. Jay, we got to start with Alabama Vanderbilt. Dude, Diego Pavia, what a game from the Commodores. Clark Lee getting Vanderbilt over the 2.5 win total against the number one team in the nation, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Crazy.
Already. Look, John, did you see the time of possession for that game? It's probably the wildest number. Alabama had the ball for 17 minutes. Vanderbilt for 42.
Crazy.
Like they literally just played keep away the entire game, which honestly is one of the secrets to beating Alabama. Don't let Jalen Milroe and them have too much time and let them have the ball for too long. They basically play keep away. Diego Pavia was 16 for 20 in the passes, so only 4 incompletions, and they ran the ball a lot. And so with that allowed for their offense to just stay on the field and keep that Alabama defense on there. We know that they were pretty gassed when they played against Georgia the week before. They basically just kept them out there, and they were probably gassed by the third quarter of that game because it was crazy. Another fun stat. Let me give you stat number 2 of the day. Somebody tweet this out. When Nick Saban was coach over there at Alabama, the 4 times they played Vanderbilt scored 13 points combined, all 4 times. They had 13 points in the first quarter in this game. Bananas moment in college football that we got to actually witness, man. It was crazy.
Yeah. All the goodwill that Kalen DeBoer built up after that Georgia win over Georgia, gone. Completely erased and more. Like you've got a lot of trust you have to earn back with the Alabama faithful. I was so impressed with the way they closed out the game. Yes. Because they get the ball, Vanderbilt gets the ball back up just 5 with a little bit more than 2 minutes to play. And just an awesome drive. I mean, it was 2nd and 12, and they call a play action bootleg, and Pavia just hits the dude in the flat, and he picks up the first down. And then they pick up another first down, like on just a straight run play, like 10 yards they pick up. And then it's like on a 2nd down play, Pavia picks up the first down to ice the game. Like just absolute stones in the Vanderbilt Commodores. And they were just stone cold killers that night. It was crazy to witness that.
One more craziness on this one. Vanderbilt had the lead the entire game.
Nuts.
Well, did you ever think you'd ever say that?
Nope.
About Alabama and Vanderbilt? Just Alabama and most teams in general.
Nope.
Vanderbilt had to lead the entire game. which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I had to be watching it, even though I was giving our baby a breathing treatment while she's watching Miss Rachel. I had it going on my phone so I could keep track of what was happening, because it was history. It was like sports history as it was happening. Another big upset on the weekend: the Tennessee Volunteers, the number 4 team in the nation, dropped by the Arkansas Razorbacks.
They went out there to Fayetteville and did not leave with a W. That's the second goalpost they got knocked down with fans storming the field. And I'm not sure if that one got thrown in the water. I mean, the Vanderbilt one got carried 3 miles to be thrown in the river, which is wild to me that they actually carried that for 3 miles. Kudos to them. Man, my shoulder hurts thinking about trying to hold up something that long.
Right.
But then Arkansas, they did the exact same thing, broke it down. Now, I don't know where they threw it. I mean, it may still be on the field, to be honest. But it's crazy to me that Arkansas is now 4-2. It was a conversation with me and some buddies. We talked about that. And the question was, is there a path for Arkansas to start off the season at 4-2? And if they didn't just play kind of dumb against Oklahoma State, they could be 5-1 right now, right? With ease. We got a lot of shockers here in the conference this year. And I mean, I put it this way. Our schedule looked very tough to start the season. It's starting to kind of lighten up with the way some of our opponents are performing.
Yeah, and Taylor Green kind of having a little bit of Diego Pavia factor as well to him. Again, not the big stat line, but did just enough against a pretty good Tennessee defense to be able to get a win. And this is a team that just a week ago lost by a score to Texas A&M. So, I mean, you talk about Arkansas being a 5-1 team. I mean, they're like this close to being a 6-0 team, which would be mind-boggling. So, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Lincoln Riley doesn't count here in college football, but I mean, that's how big of a difference we're seeing out of the Arkansas Razorbacks compared to a year ago.
Yep, and Malachi Singleton coming in there for Taylor Green, because Green got hurt at one point in the game. I think he kind of buckled his knee or something, but Malachi Singleton goes in there and he's getting some. I think he ran the ball 4 times and then he got a few passes off. Yeah, they had to go to the next quarterback to close this bad boy out. Just it was epic football. Great
Bobby
weekend.
Petrino factor. And then, man, Missouri, your first actual game of the season. Listen, I don't care about Boston College. That Boston College is not a real test. Your first real test of the season, going on the road to College Station, and you came up like kittens, man. Soft, fluffy kittens.
Look, I kind of called it. If you've heard me talk about this game in numerous platforms, I was on Bleacher Report, on my channel, or even here. When I saw that Texas A&M was a 2.5-point favorite, I said Vegas is trapping somebody because people are going to be dumb enough to take Missouri. And sure enough, I think about 70 to 80% of the traffic was on Missouri and the line never moved. Oh, Vegas cleaned up on this game. And it was just like, ooh, just bad. Texas A&M outgained them 512 to 254. The craziest part is there were 0 turnovers. It was just old school down your throat football. That was it. He just beat them up.
Yeah, Missouri just could not get anything going, not in the run game, not in the pass game. The one touchdown that they had, the cornerback basically stopped guarding Theo Weiss and turned his attention to Luther Burden, who they were basically running the same route, like 5 yards apart, and he just stopped covering his guy.
Yep.
Otherwise, maybe they don't score any points in that game. And then Eli Drinkwitz, 4th and goal, inside the 5, late in the game, kicking a field goal. Tell me you didn't know what the over-under was in this game, Eli Drinkwitz. Tell me that with a straight face.
Like, I don't understand why you would even kick the field goal, man. You're getting blasted. You better find a way to try to score touchdowns.
Dude, leave it on the field. If you're not scoring a touchdown, just be like, I don't care. We're either scoring a touchdown or we're turning the ball over on downs. We're not going out with a field goal to make it 41-10. I'm sorry. 4th
and goal, and you go for a field goal. You should be embarrassed.
Millhouse. It's not coming up Millhouse, man. Other big games from the weekend, dude. USC, again, Lincoln Riley struggling with a certain type of team, whether it was, we've seen it before, Kansas State, we've seen Utah, now Minnesota, these tough hard-nosed, defensive-minded football teams that run the ball really, really well took old Lincoln Riley and made his hot seat a lot hotter.
Yeah, the message boards were definitely a little fiery after that game. Even with that, and then Michigan in the Washington game. Ooh, Big Ten had some doozies, but that was another game. Washington was a 2-point favorite with Michigan coming into town. I'm like, wait, top 10 Michigan is a 2-point dog on the road against what? Guaranteed that's another trap. Sure enough, it was, as Washington won that game by 7 points.
Back to the USC thing real quick. We've seen Lincoln Riley give up a game late. They had 3rd and 4, had a chance to go up, score some points. It's at the 35-yard line for Minnesota, so by no means a gimme. USC for the game averaged almost 7 yards per carry. So on 3rd and 4, with a chance to extend their lead from 17-10 to maybe 20-10 at worst, 24-10, they throw a pass. Miller Moss gets intercepted. Minnesota goes right down the field and scores to tie the game. USC's next series, 3 and out. And Minnesota takes it down the field again. PJ Fleck, 4th and 1 at the goal line. Go for it. We're not kicking a field goal. We're going for it. Touchdown. They go up 24-17. They hold on for the win. Another Miller Moss interception at the end closes it out. But yeah, his job is being questioned quite emphatically out there in Los Angeles. And he's not doing himself any favors by going after the LA media for asking a legitimate question either.
Right. Yeah, he likes to push back for some reason when it's like, no, that's not a reason to push back. You got to do a better job of being able to understand when there's legitimate questions or not. I mean, the whole Barry Alexander thing told me everything I needed to know, right? It's y'all just trying to make this a story. This isn't a story. Next thing you know, day later, Barry Alexander is a story. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, I get that you're trying to cover up and protect everything internally, but if you know that it's getting out there, you better go ahead and jump on it now.
Yeah. For a guy who hasn't been very good since the 2022 season, I mean, he's been 5-7 over the last 12 games, and they were just 7-5 a year ago. You don't really want to be agitating the media, especially in Los Angeles. You don't want to be confrontational. You don't want to be adversarial with an LA media. There's 2 places in the world you definitely don't want to be adversarial with the media, especially if you're not doing your job well. That's New York. Right. That's Los Angeles. Because the LA Times isn't going to give you any grace if you're not winning football games. So that's going to be it. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and pile on the dude, but I'm going to pile on the dude a little bit because the mecca of college football is kind of falling apart. And Lincoln Riley is the architect of said quote unquote mecca of college football. The quote signs were legitimate. They're there for all the podcast listeners. But any other big news? We didn't really talk about what it means for Oklahoma. We just talked about the games. But for me, I'm looking at this weekend and I'm like, anybody that wants to write Oklahoma off in the Red River Showdown, we've got plenty of evidence from this past weekend and Kentucky beating Ole Miss the week before. Anything can happen on any given Saturday in the Red River Showdown. Anything can happen. So do not lose hope, Oklahoma Sooner fans.
Yeah, you got to remember that this is the SEC, and the SEC grind is one of those big things out there, right? You know, the SEC teams just be taking each other out. And so there's another opportunity for that to happen this coming weekend.
That's right. And we're going to have you prepared for the Red River Showdown all week. We'll get with our man, Jonathan Davis at Jonzo Mall of Locked On Longhorns later this week for our crossover show. We'll get you ready with our keys to the game, prediction for the game. We'll talk through all the top storylines, the news, the notes that happens. We'll have it all covered here on Locked On Sooners. So make sure you're tuned in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that notification bell and that subscribe button to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over there on YouTube as well. Follow me at John 9 Williams. You can also read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. We're available, Locked On Sooners is, on all social media platforms. So also follow us wherever you social media. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.